So Victoria Nuland, the representation of the deep state uniparty, Republican and Democrat, serving in the government, in the State Department for 3 decades.
Damn, mosquitoes, man, they're bad. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Welcome to my living room. I'm gonna try to shoot this with the light that we got going, but my name's Zach. First off, hope you guys are doing well out there and you're having a good day. I got some banana peppers here. I'm gonna cut them up while I talk about these 2 videos that I made recently, having to do with some current events I think we're all probably interested in. Some of you guys might be hip to some of this, some of you guys might not be. Either way, thanks for checking out the channel, and let's get into it. A lot of you out there might not know who Victoria Nuland is.
I think most Americans have no idea who this woman is, right? But I think most Americans would also do more than raise an eyebrow if I told you that there was a member of our State Department that predicted what has been played as a terrorist event, right? She predicted it, and it just so happened to be one of the major events that pulled us into this proxy war with Russia in Ukraine, which has been a complete grift and waste of money, right? So I think most people will react to that if someone in the State Department made a prediction about an event like that, and then the same member of our, unelected government happened to make another prediction, right, about a recent assassination attempt.
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president.
And new video has just surfaced from the deep state Satan herself, Victoria Nuland.
I think most Americans have no idea who this woman is. I don't know. Do you know who Victoria Nuland is? Probably not. I think most people don't know who she is. I think you might be surprised to find out.
Of course, Project Ukraine, which she effectively birthed. I mean, this is her child. Project Ukraine is her creation for the most part.
Here she is just a few hours before the shooting, guaranteeing that Trump won't be president because a surprise is coming.
Our economy, etc. So I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get...
There's someone in our government like this who isn't an elected official, has so much to do with current events, international happenings, geopolitics, and crazy things going on in this country, like what just happened in Butler, PA. Check it out.
A unhappy surprise, I think.
Bullet hole, $47.
So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get a unhappy surprise, I think. Going to get unhappy surprise, I think. That is number one.
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president.
She's part of the government that you and I don't ever get to vote for, right? These are people that don't get put on ballots, right? Don't have any type of regulations or mandates regarding their jobs, really, and their kind of like decision-making responsibilities. It's seemingly a lot of these people have the responsibility of what you would think an elected official would have, but they're not. And this is the problem with our government today. So a lot of people will call this the permanent state, right?
One way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
What's one way? Well, we asked them to stop. And what's another? We asked them to stop with explosives.
Victoria Nuland, as you'll learn in this video, you'll learn a little bit about her here, and you're going to find out who exactly she is and what she has to do with our recent current events. Especially, of course, during the Biden administration. She's had a prominent seat in our in our State Department, right, which deals with foreign relations throughout his administration, and she's made some very critical decisions.
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get a unhappy surprise. I think that is number one.
An unhappy surprise. What could that be?
I mean, she's.
What could that be?
I mean, she's.
What could that be?
I mean, she's.
I don't want to get into the more extreme level of assumptions and I guess some people would call them conspiracy theories about groups that this guy is 100% a part of, and which deities they potentially would be worshiping if they did do that. But one thing that they seem to do very consistently is if they're going to do something real bad, something real bad on a global scale, they seem to like to put images out that foretell that, like,
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president.
you know what I mean? So very consistent thing that they do. And then when people notice this,
Willie G, kind of disappeared off everybody's radar the last few years after him and Dr. Evil thought they could just go out to seminars all around the world and tell everybody that they're just gonna tear everything up and it'll be fine.
Nuland has pretty much taken credit. She's taken credit for blowing up Nord Stream. Period. It's not even a stretch at this point to say that.
I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. With regard to Nord Stream 2, and I want to be clear with you today, if Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2
Will not move forward. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on.
Senator Cruz, like you, I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
What's one way? Well, we asked them to stop. And what's another? We asked them to stop with explosives.
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get a unhappy surprise, I think. As you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
Now, her saying that Putin...
He's going to get a unhappy surprise, I think.
Right? I mean, come on, man. When that woman, with her record, says something like that, boy, it means something. And then when a statement like that lines up with what happened a few days later in Butler, it means a whole lot more. But yeah, man, I'm trying to just put people down on game here, So like, something that drew Russia into that war, it was at one point the pipeline that carried gas called Nord Stream 1 and 2 from Russia into Europe was blown up, and this was done so we could, America could further separate, the globalists rather, could further separate Europe from Russia and make European countries more dependent on American fossil fuels.
Which is what we worry about in this whole thing, that so much of our foreign policy is guided by and influenced by people who specifically benefit from the kind of interventionist foreign policy that so many of us worry is actually damaging to our national security.
Yeah, there's something very perverse about being politically opposed to any kind of redistributional politics that's supposed to target the poor or to say fund infrastructure projects that broadly benefit all Americans, but to say it's good when we spend billions of dollars if some of it trickles down to the defense industry. This is exactly the kind of cyclical involvement of the military-industrial complex that we were so prophetically warned about 60, 70 years ago.
So, of course, this all worked and drew the EU and Britain and all of us into this pointless war.
Ukraine is not going to end up reconquering the territory that Russia took. That's just not realistic, and there's no way for it to happen.
So the funny thing is that this same woman, she had just recently stepped down. Just recently, right? Weeks before the Butler, PA incident, she had stepped down from Biden administration's State Department. And what she was a second or third in charge, right? So now she's out of there. Well, then a few weeks later, this happens in Butler. Okay. The interesting part is that she was out here apparently days before that happened, basically making a similar prediction like she did with Nord Stream.
I don't think that Donald Trump is gonna be president.
This permanent state, these are bureaucrats, right? That we don't vote for, like I said. So what happens is they stay in positions, and really some of them make rounds in administrative positions. Just like the head of regulatory agencies make with the heads and CEOs or whatever of corporations. The corporations that they happen to regulate, right? But like they make rounds, but these people aren't voted for. They just happen to be in the FBI or the CIA or whatever, fill in the blank, ATF or IRS, and they just greet and say goodbye to each administration as it comes and goes. So like you tell me, man, we're none of us are stupid. In a situation like that, it's inherent. The people that are in that position have a certain amount of power, right? If they're given updates to the elected officials as they come in, then who's really running the show?
Sad, misinformed analysis. Oh boy. Anyway, let's get to the main event for today's video, which is Politico's exit interview of Victoria Nuland. That's right. Politico put out an article interviewing Victoria Nuland with the title, "She was at the top of the State Department. Now she's ready to talk." As Victoria Nuland steps down, she gets real about a world on fire. Politico. Anyway, let's get to Politico's exit interview.
Little did we know at the time,
Victoria
she
Nuland.
may have had
Let's see what
a
Victoria
whole set of
Nuland
plans.
has to say. Victoria Nuland has long been known as a
She
relentless,
resigns 3 months
even
prior to the
pugnacious
Trump
U.S.
assassination.
diplomat with a strong belief in American power. The approach sometimes got her in trouble, but it rarely held her back. Sometimes got her in trouble, but it rarely held her back. Nuland recently left the State Department after serving at its highest levels, first as the Biden administration's Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, and for several months, acting Deputy Secretary of State. She previously was a career diplomat who held an array of roles under presidents, both Republican and Democratic. Her first posting more than 3 decades ago was as a consular officer in China. So Victoria Nuland, the representation of the deep state uniparty, Republican and Democrats, serving in the government, in the State Department for 3 decades. In the State Department for 3 decades. Whether it's the Republicans in power or whether it's the Democrats in power. This is the representation. She is the pinnacle representation of the deep state uniparty. Let's get to the first question. I'm not going to read the whole article because, well, let me just summarize the full article, the full exit interview. I'll just summarize it for you, and I'll read the first question, and I'll read the last question that Politico throws at Nuland. But let me summarize everything in between. Basically, this article is Nuland saying Russia's bad, China's bad, Trump is bad, and student protesters at Columbia University are bad. That's the exit interview. But let me read you the first question, and there's a whole lot of projection in this article. Basically, everything that the neocons do to the world, she projects it onto mostly Russia, but China, Russia, etc. So there's a lot of projection in this interview. But the first question that Politico throws at Nuland is, how's life on the outside? Like she was in prison or something. How's life on the outside? Hey, Victoria Nuland, how's life on the outside? Life is good on the outside. It was tough on the inside, really tough. Anyway.
Of course, Project Ukraine, which she effectively birthed. I mean, this is her child. Project Ukraine is her creation for the most part. What are your thoughts on Nuland's resignation?
You know, you used to be able to get like good editorial news or say like 60 Minutes type stuff, like just good in-depth opinion kind of stuff, you know, things that would shape public opinion in a healthy way. You can't find that anymore in the media, right? Especially about geopolitics and international news. But these two dudes right here, Alexander Mercois, however you say his last name, my French is very bad, muy mal, and Alex Cristoforo, two of my favorites. These gentlemen, dudes are right on the money, and they cover these affairs, international foreign relations, geopolitics, and recently the wars and everything like nobody's business. I mean, they're right on top of it. There's no doubt that there's a lot more people watching them than simply viewers, right? They really have a lot to say on Nuland, the kind of deep state, permanent state infrastructure, her place in it, and just some specific stuff to her in recent current events, aside from the predictions and tragedy and things that she's caused or has tried to cause. Satan herself is no understatement for what this woman has done.
Satan herself, Victoria Nuland.
I've increasingly come round to the view that this was a resignation that was insisted upon by powerful people within the United States, within the government of the United States. And the way it was, suddenly announced was very strange. I mean, this thing came completely out of the blue. Usually when somebody's retiring, we've given some advance notice that, and why would she do it just now in this, sudden way? Why not say, that she's told Lincoln that she intends to leave office, leave the State Department, say at the end of the year or at the end of the current presidential term, not suddenly coming along, telling Lincoln, I'm going to leave at once. Now there may be explanations.
It sure seems to me like there's more to this situation with her leaving the State Department than meets the eye. I wouldn't be surprised if her leaving there really had to do with a focus on getting certain plans together for certain things. There's no doubt that we just witnessed the execution of an operation, and somebody had to be running that. And you know what? Blowing up a pipeline, that was also an operation.
This comes as Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland seemed to admit the quiet part out loud when it comes to United States investment in Ukraine.
By the way, we have to remember that the bulk of this money is going right back into the U.S. economy to make those weapons.
Meanwhile, Congresswoman Nancy Mace said the White House has yet to define its mission in Ukraine and told Fox News yesterday that, quote, the one thing that you did not hear Jake Sullivan or Joe Biden say today, or really ever, is defining our mission in Ukraine. They have yet to define that mission. If we had the answer, we'd be talking about it, and perhaps there'd be more support.
Of course, there's some people in the United States who support that sort of thing. But there must be others, especially in the Pentagon, who say, my God, these Europeans, they want to get us involved in Ukraine. They want to start all of this trouble there. If they themselves get into serious trouble, they will do what they always do. They'll hide behind the United States, ask us to come to their rescue. We don't want to be involved in any of that. We have other, more important things to worry about, specifically China in the Pacific, the people who've taken over from Nuland, Kurt Campbell and John Bass are notable China hawks, by the way. And they're saying, enough's enough. Nuland is probably behind all of this. The idea of launching the missile strikes into Russia does look like it was her idea. So they said enough's enough. And at some point, they must have complained to Blinken and presumably to Biden himself and said, look, the time has come. We can't tolerate this anymore. She's got to leave. And bear in mind that these same people appear to have successfully blocked about a month ago her attempt to be appointed Deputy Secretary of State. She held that role as an acting role for 7 months, but when the moment came, she was passed over. So you could see, it looks to me that she's been squeezed out. And being a sophisticated person and being, I think, fully aware that if she tried to stand her ground, her position within the State Department would become increasingly isolated and intolerable, and that if she tried to fight on, there was a real risk that she might be sacked, which she wouldn't want. She decided to bow to the pressure and resign. And then, of course, the moment she resigned, this is the very interesting thing, because the statement says that she resigned. She told Blinken that she was going to resign, and then the statement says she's retired, which, as I said, forecloses the option of her coming back.
Yeah, this is as close as you can possibly get in the government, in the U.S. government, to actually seeing someone being fired for incompetence and for messing up.
Yes.
I mean, this is as close as I think we've ever seen something like this happen.
Ukraine is not going to end up reconquering the territory that Russia took. That's just not realistic, and there's no way for it to happen.
So, Nuland stepping down, retiring, right, whatever it may be, I think the timing is quite suspicious. It seems as though she had stepped away from her position at the State Department, month to 6 weeks before the thing in Butler. That's like an operational time frame. That's what we're talking about there. So this whole thing is really, really quite suspicious to me in that way. Another thing that I found quite interesting, I thought that I captured the footage, at least audio, but I thought I had both, and then I realized I didn't. Well, I'm just going to talk about this instead of show you guys. But I came across this whole big issue or this whole big discussion having to do with encryption, encrypted communication, and where this was being stored, essentially, right? They were talking about apps, and then the conversation goes to phones or discussion rather goes to phones and emails. And then pretty quickly it ends up talking about servers in foreign countries and democratic servers, left-wing servers in Ukraine specifically, that couldn't be touched by anyone if they wanted to go see what was on it, right? Like, we'd need permission from the Ukrainian government to get our hands on that, even though it's likely that it's U.S. government business being stored and conducted on there. Now, I'm going to take a guess and just say that Signal has its servers in Ukraine, just like Hillary Clinton's emails were. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. I'm going to be coming with this content as much as I can, and I hope you enjoy it. I put a lot of time into these edits, and I'm trying to get faster with it because I have a lot to say. So blessings out there, everybody. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Share it with everyone you can. Please give me support on the channel. Help me grow this thing, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, peace. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the pepper chopping, and I'll fill y'all in with how the banana peppers turn out. All right. Till next time. Later.
That the permanent state, because I think when you talk about the State Department, you do have to talk about the permanent state and not so much the Biden White House and the Trump White House or the Obama White House. I mean, in the State Department, you have entrenched a permanent state.
Now she's ready to talk. As Victoria Nuland steps down, she gets real about a world on fire. She was just a small town girl with a dream to destroy the Russian Federation, a dream to make it to the top of the US State Department. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. I read this title and I think about my Don't Stop Believin' journey reference for Victoria Nuland. She was at the top of the State Department. She was just a small town girl with a big dream